Warm greetings from the high tent. It's Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. I'm waiting for the news program to start, so bear with me. Thank you all so much. Hello, Esley, Leslie, Marie, Chair. Thank you all so much for joining me. We will start in just a minute. Thank you all so much. Hope you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Say yes or no. I had my phones in. I'm going to make sure everybody can hear me. Okay, I'm going to put these headphones in and let me know if you can still hear me or not. Hold on, you guys. Now can you still hear me? Is that a yes? That you can hear me? Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope everybody's well. Prayers for the Ukraine. CBS is the source. Hello, Lucy. How are you? Hello, Marilyn. Hello, Norma. Well, they said 2:30, so we'll see what happens. Hello, R. How are you, honey? Just want to make sure everybody can hear me well. Hello. Hi, Anna. Can everybody hear me fine? Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. The program has not started yet. Guess they're getting all their ducks in a row. So far, they've got 121 waiting, so we'll see. Just an update for those of you who are watching and invested in the Summerwells case. WJHL News 11 is the source. According to reports from the TBI, authorities are searching previously identified areas of interest for the 6-year-old girl. February marks 8 months since Summerwells was last seen. There's also a photograph in the said commentary of searchers, and there's also a dog present. Why they have resumed back to the area, I do not know. Obviously, they didn't announce to the public that they would be searching, as because common sense, with rumors and rhetoric and foolishness that has surrounded this case via social media, which I think is very sad that law officials can't even tell you that they're going to be searching an area or when they're coming to search because of all the shenanigans pertaining to a missing child. But as to preserve an investigation, they're doing what they think is best. We'll now start the program. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Prayers for the Ukraine. I will chat with you all via texting through the live. I don't know how long this program is going to last, but thank you. And I will bring you commentary thereafter. And another video I wanted to play for you pertaining to the civilians on the ground fighting back with weapons given to them by the city to arm themselves. I wish they would start. It's 2:35 now, Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hello, Miss Kay. How are you, sweetheart? Thank you all so much for the support. Welcome new subs, visitors. This is the Pentagon giving their commentary.
I'm always shopping the real.
It's about to start now. Thank you so much. Commercial playing. Do whatever you were doing beforehand.
Execution. So with that, we'll go to questions. Lita.
Thanks, John. Two things. One of the things that the Russians said today was that they boosted their staff at some of their nuclear sites. I'm wondering if there's anything that the Pentagon has seen regarding any changes in their nuclear posture at all. And then secondly, can you provide any assessment on the convoy that's headed to Kyiv and what the security situation in Kyiv is to the best that you all can tell right now?
Yeah. So on the nuclear question, I have nothing to confirm these reports that they've changed their staffing. What I would tell you is we've seen Mr. Putin's announcement. We believe it's as unnecessary as it is escalatory, but we're reviewing and analyzing that announcement. And I would only just tell you that as we continue to review and analyze and monitor, the Secretary Austin is comfortable with the strategic deterrent posture of the United States and our ability to defend the homeland, our allies, and our partners. On the convoy, I mean, I've seen the images that you're referring to on television, just like you. And we see them as well. I can't speak to specifics about its makeup, in the timeline and the schedule that they're on, or what their ultimate destination is, but clearly we continue to see Russian forces try to move closer to, so they can move on Kyiv from the ground. We still assess that they're outside the city center, but what we know clearly that they have intentions with respect to Kyiv. What we also have seen is Ukrainians resisting quite effectively around Kyiv and continuously. They have made it a tough slog for the Russians to move further south. And as I think you've seen in reporting of your own, that the Russians have not only experienced a stiff and determined resistance by the Ukrainians, but logistics and sustainment problems of their own. So I can't speak with specificity about this convoy and what's in it and what their designs are, but it clearly appears to us, just anecdotally, as of a piece of their desire to continue to move on the capital. Jen.
What's your assessment of the Russian military? What have you learned about the Russian military from this last 5 days?
You know, I think it's too soon for us to have some sort of sweeping conclusions about the Russian military here in day 5. I would just say a couple of things. First of all, make no mistake, Mr. Putin still has at his disposal significant combat power. He hasn't moved all of it into Ukraine, but he's moved the majority of it. He still has a lot that he hasn't moved into Ukraine. It's combined arms, and it's not insignificant, Jen. Number 2, yes, they have faced setbacks, and they have faced resistance. You got to hand it to the Ukrainians, who have been fighting very hard for their country and making an impact and making a dent on Mr. Putin's abilities. But they will learn. The Russians will learn from this. We expect that they'll that they're. We haven't seen any change in in what we believe their desires to move in Ukraine. And so they have suffered setbacks, but I don't think we can just assume that they're going to stay set back, if you will. That they will try to work through the resistance and to work through the challenges they've had on the logistics and sustainment front. Go ahead.
Have you seen any new threat to Article 5 nations from Russian forces?
We have not. We have not. Tara.
Russia has said it will now hold accountable any nation that supplies weapons to Ukraine that lead to the death of its own forces. Is there a risk here that this could escalate if Russia decides to retaliate against nations that are providing these weapons?
Tara, there's been a risk of escalation since before Mr. Putin decided to move in, with tens of thousands of troops and tanks and mechanized forces and aircraft and ballistic missiles. You want to talk about escalation? Let's talk about escalation. Mr. Putin is the one escalating this and continues to do so. We're going to stand by the Ukrainian armed forces as we have, as other NATO allies have, and we're going to continue to find ways to help them defend themselves.
Turkey today announced that they are closing the straits to all warships for the littoral and non-littoral countries. Do you have anything on that? Do you have any comment?
I haven't. I don't have anything on that. Yeah, Gabriel.
Thanks, John. Is DoD coordinating air defense assistance with partners, and can you comment on the EU offer to give Ukraine combat jets?
I can't comment on the EU offer. We've seen that. I mean, that's really for the European Union to speak to. But separate and distinct from that, and I think this gets really more at your first question, we absolutely remain in close consultation and coordination with allies and partners about security assistance. I don't have a coordination mechanism to speak to, like all of it's being funneled through a single point or that kind of thing. But we continue to coordinate closely with allies and partners about the security assistance that the Ukrainians continue to get, not just from us, but from them as well. Yeah.
Many European nations are providing to Ukrainians with advanced weapons. They're not shy in revealing what types of weapons they're providing to Ukraine. In the past, the U.S. has been reluctant in providing lethal weapon, but now, openly we're talking about these things. However, we're still talking anti-airborne, anti-armored, but there's no specificity. Is this because of intelligence reasons, or as some might say, you don't want to provoke the Russians more? What is the reason that it's open? The U.S. will support the Ukrainian forces. We're going to continue and others. But what on the specific side of these weapons?
Fadi, I don't think we've been inconsistent at all. I can't speak for what other nations are saying and doing. They can speak for the security assistance they're providing the Ukrainians, which is welcome and certainly encouraged. We've been pretty consistent about A, acknowledging we're doing it and going to continue to do it. B, giving you a sense of the size and scale and the scope of it in terms of the dollar figures applied to it. And C, been pretty, I think, transparent about what's generally in the package. We're not going to give you an inventory list. We're not going to put that out to the public because, as I've said from this podium many times, I think there's a value to operational security for the Ukrainians to have that out in the public, that what the shopping list looks like on any given day. Just don't see a value to doing that. I think we need to think about, we should always think about operational security, certainly in this case on the Ukrainians' part. So we're doing that. The kinds of material that are going to be in these security assistance packages going forward, I think you've rightly said, we've detailed it's going to be some weapons that can support them on the ground, as well as weapons that can support the airborne challenges that they have. And I think we feel comfortable going about that far.
The images from Mike Sarr, the satellite images of this convoy that extends for 17 miles. Do you believe the Russian forces advancing on Kyiv are planning on basically encircle the city or storm Kyiv? This type of troops and armaments at this size, are you able to draw any conclusion from what you've seen?
I think the main conclusion we can draw, this gets to Lita's question, is that they continue to want to move on Kyiv. to capture Kyiv, to take Kyiv. Although we don't know everything about this convoy, it is certainly in keeping with what we believe to be their intent with respect to the capital city. How they're going to do that, whether it's encirclement or bombardment or street-to-street fighting, I mean, I just don't think we have that level of dexterity now to give you that kind of detail in terms of Russian planning. We don't have insights to everything that they're planning on doing. What we can talk about is what we're seeing now, and that's what we're seeing now. And we're also seeing the Ukrainians put up a very stiff and determined resistance on their capital city. They have made it very difficult for the Russians to continue to move ahead. We believe that based on what we know of what their plans were, that they are behind schedule, that they have faced a stiffer resistance than they anticipated. Court.
Can you update us on any efforts at deconfliction, and have there been any close calls or specific cases in the last 5 days where there would be a need for a tactical deconfliction? And then are there calls that are being made from this building, from the White House, from the State Department, whatever it is, to try to establish that? I would tell you that there is no deconfliction mechanism in place right now. But certainly we understand the importance of deconfliction, particularly now that the airspace over Ukraine is contested, and some of that airspace butts right up against NATO territory. And we're exploring options for should there be a deconfliction mechanism, what would that look like? How would that be run? We're exploring those options, Court. I think that's where we are right now. When you say we, you mean the Pentagon?
The Pentagon, yes.
Is there a consideration of sort of a larger NATO deconfliction? So somehow NATO would be the one who would be communicating?
Sure, that could be part of the calculus. Again, we're kind of exploring the options right now. We don't have concrete decisions, and we don't have any indication right now from the Russians that they would also be interested in exploring those options. It's got to be a two-way street. But we are having discussions here about what that should look like, could look like, and certainly one option could be that it's done at, inside the alliance rather than a unilateral thing.
So at this point, Russia has shown no interest in establishing this.
I think that's a safe bet. Yes, ma'am. Carla?
Thank you. And now that we've seen civilian targets that have been hit, is the U.S. considering installing a no-fly zone in Ukrainian airspace?
No.
And then to follow, can you tell us if there's been any more requests from NATO allies for U.S. military assistance, and give us an update on the troops that have deployed for this potential inclusion in the NATO response force? What are they doing right now?
There's no additional requests for allied support that I'm tracking, Carla, but obviously this is a dynamic situation. We're in constant touch with our allies and partners, and we'll certainly continue to talk about that. I would not rule out in coming days additional repositioning in Europe as appropriate. I don't have any updates for you on the NATO response force or the troops that we have contributed. The president spoke to the 7,000 that were going over there. They could be elements of our contribution to the very ready joint task force that NATO is working on putting together. But you do really have to talk to NATO and the alliance there in Brussels about their plans for that. What I would just tell you is that Secretary Austin has been very clear from the very beginning that should it be activated, we want to make sure we're ready. And that's why we've sent some additional forces to Europe to be in that posture and to be ready. Should that be the requirement that comes from the alliance? Again, we haven't gotten specific requirements laid out yet for us. And as for the troops that we have already repositioned and or deployed from the States unilaterally, they continue to work and train with the host nations as well as other NATO allies in wherever they are, whether it's in the Baltic region or whether it's down in the southeastern flank, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania. They continue to work and train with their host nations and allied partners. And then the 82nd, as you know, in Poland, they are also there as a reassurance force, but they are postured and prepared to assist if needed with any evacuation assistance for Americans coming across that border. There hasn't been a heavy demand for that. They're postured and ready to do that, but there just hasn't been a large outflow of American citizens from Ukraine. And those that have come by and large, by a vast majority, have not needed any assistance from the United States military. They've already made their plans. They know where they're going. that there's obviously good transportation available to them in Poland. Okay, let me get to the phones here. Tony Capaccio.
Hi, John. Quick question. By how many days do you think the Russians have been derailed or been delayed from their original plans? You've alluded to that. You referenced that today, the time what you think was their schedule. Were they intending to be in Kiev by today and have conquered the city under their war plan?
Tony, I want to be reticent here to get too much into Russian planning. I mean, I think they're far better to speak to what their plans were. We think that they're a few days behind where they expected to be writ large in the country. I mean, I know we're focused on Kyiv now, but we think they're a few days behind where they expected to be at this point. Phil Stewart?
That we provided to the Ukrainians, can you broadly say how effective they've been used and how widely they've been used? We're talking javelins and other ones that have been in the news.
I'm going to steer away from getting into the battlefield analysis of the weaponry that's being used on any given day and to what effect. We know that the Ukrainian armed forces are using a lot of the systems and equipment that have been provided to them, not just by the United States, but by other nations. And you can see it for yourself. And many of your outlets, you've got reporters on the ground who are seeing it up close and personal. The Ukrainians have been effective at using these weapons and these systems and at resisting and pushing back Russian forces. I want to remind again that this is a dynamic situation. It's war, and war can be unpredictable. And I don't think that anybody, including perhaps especially Ukrainians, are sniffing at Russian capabilities that they're facing. Phil Stewart?
John, what would the U.S. or NATO allies do if Russia were to target these convoys or these shipments of these weapons that are going to Ukraine, especially now that Russia has warned that they find these shipments unacceptable?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into hypothetical, Phil. We're going to continue to provide security assistance to Ukrainian armed forces, and we're still going to look for ways to do that in the most effective, efficient way possible. Our support for Ukraine continues, as well as that of allies and partners. And I'm going to refrain from hypothesizing about what ifs in terms of any disruptions or potential disruptions to that assistance. Mike Glenn?
Yeah, hi, John. Thanks a lot. Question. The Russians have violated basically every maximum rule of war you can think of. I mean, under the 3-to-1 ratio rule, they should have fielded about 1 million troops instead of the 200,000 or so they fielded. They're not concentrating forces. They don't have control of the airspace. They didn't have a good situational awareness of their opponent. My question is, our leadership in the building, are they surprised by just how bad the Russians have bungled this invasion so far?
Watching this as closely as you guys are on a day-by-day basis, and we're refraining from making some sort of broad assessments or assigning report cards to them on any given day. It is day 5, Mike. It's day 5, and it's clear the Russians have not made the progress that they wanted to make by day 5. But that doesn't mean that they aren't going to adapt and try to overcome some of these challenges. And it doesn't mean that the Ukrainians aren't going to also keep fighting for their country. And what that looks like tomorrow and the next day, we just don't know. So it's clear, yes, the Russians have had their own challenges, and they have met resistance that we don't believe they fully expected. But I think it'd be dangerous territory for us to read too much into this on any given day and prognosticate about where it's going to go. I would also just add that the one place it still could go is a peaceful diplomatic outcome. There's nothing other than perhaps his own obstinacy of preventing Mr. Putin from doing the right thing here and to trying to find a way to stop this war, to de-escalate the tensions, and to re-engage in some sort of diplomatic, peaceful path forward. Now we'll see if that can bear out. It clearly doesn't appear to be the path he wants to choose. Louis.
Can I ask you a question? One, there have been reports that the Russians have used cluster munitions in Kharkiv. Do you have anything that would suggest that? And how would you view that if that was the case?
Seeing the imagery that you guys have seen that's sort of leading to these questions, Louis, we can't independently verify that. But look, let's not get hung up on a particular weapon system here. He's perpetrating violence on a neighboring nation state that presented no threat to him. And innocent lives are being killed, taken. And we've seen casualties. We know there's casualties on both sides of this conflict. All of this, Louis, was avoidable. So obviously certain weapons carry with them ramifications that others don't. But let's not get too wrapped up in whether it's this or that. This is a war of choice, completely and totally unavoidable. And all the casualties are on his hands. All the blood is on Mr. Putin's hands.
On a different matter, you spoke earlier about the thousands of soldiers from the 82nd who were there. To help with the situation that has not emerged, helping Americans get out. There's a broader situation that's taking place on that border. You now have almost 300,000 people who have crossed over the border in the last 4 days. Is there any discussion that those forces may be committed to a broader humanitarian mission, and under whatever authority to ease a situation given the limited resourcing that Poland may have?
We're in constant touch with our State Department colleagues and with Polish authorities. If there's such a demand signal outside of Ukraine, if there's such a demand signal, obviously the Department of Defense would do our part and help out. There's no such demand signal right now. Jeff Schogel.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, when you answered Tony's questions, I think you said something along the lines of no one is sniffing at these weapons. Was sniffing the right word?
I think it was. Let's see. Heather from USI.
Great, thank you. I was wondering if you can give us an update on any naval movements you might have seen this afternoon, as well as any update on whether Turkey is planning to close off the Bosphorus to ships outside Black Sea Fleet.
Turkey. I'll let Turkey speak to their application of the Montreux Convention. That's for them to speak to. In the maritime domain, we know that the Russians still have warships as well, which includes amphibious landing ships in the Black Sea. We know that they used some of those landing ships to conduct an amphibious assault late last week. I don't have any updates, specific things to speak about in the maritime domain in the Black Sea, but we do know that they clearly still have combat capability at sea available to them. And I just don't have anything more in terms of what we're seeing, anything more kinetic to talk to.
Have you seen any evidence that the Snake Island sailors are alive? The Ukrainians? There was
no. Man, we've seen some press reporting to that effect, yeah, but
you have
no way to verify that one way or the other. Sorry. Yeah, Warren.
The security assistance, both lethal and non-lethal, that the U.S. and others are sending in, do you have indications that that's getting where it needs to go? Are those lines working, and how far into the country can they get? Kyiv, Kharkiv?
I would just tell you, Warren, that the assistance continues to flow, and we are comfortable that it's getting into the hands that need it. I think I'd leave it there. Abraham, I already got you. No, I'm not. All right, go ahead.
Okay. I wondered if you could talk about more. Thank you so much, sir. I wondered if you could address the air policing mission. The United States has F-16s, F-35s moving fifth gen capabilities to the eastern flank, all the way from the Baltics down to
And
the Black
F-18s.
Sea. Can you talk a little bit about the deterrent effect that has had and what they're doing exactly?
The Baltic Air Police mission, I think you know, is long-standing. It's something we've been doing for quite a while, and it remains a valid mission set for our pilots and aircraft that are based there at UCOM. As I said, some of them are coming from the Navy side as well, and we're going to continue to work with the Baltic states on this air policing. But those missions are happening. I mean, they're happening in real time, and they have even before this crisis. And it's important, especially back to some degree. Back to Court's question about deconfliction. I mean, this is airspace that now butts up against what is now contested airspace. So, in many ways, these air policing missions are more important than ever before. Tara?
Feeling generous. Has the Pentagon been able to assess anything additional from Putin's orders putting troops on the heightened nuclear deterrent posture?
I kind of already dealt with that with Lita. I think I just leave my answer after her. Okay, you're it.
Thank you very much. What? So, we know that Russians are using cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, advanced air technologies. Is the NATO airspace being protected by advanced air defense systems right now? Are you ready to intercept any Russian missiles crossing into the airspace?
I won't talk about the specifics of how NATO airspace is or will be protected. I would just tell you that one of the reasons why we have, and you've seen some of the air assets we've contributed now in just the last week or so, is to make sure that we, when we say we're going to defend every inch of NATO territory, that means from the sky as well. We are working in close coordination with our allies and partners and their air forces to make sure that we can meet that need. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, that's the Pentagon speaking. Thank you all for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. This was a live update pertaining to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. CBS is the source. Feel free to go into the said YouTube queue to get the said information. I'm going to, wait 1 second, share this to the post. Well, it won't even come up now. Well, let's see. Hold on. Sorry about that. I'm sharing it somewhere else. Hold on 1 second, you guys. Thank you for joining me. Okay, lots of questions. Naturally, they can't give you answers to everything because he's not on the ground. He's not there. He can't speak of everything that's going on abroad. Naturally, they have people on the ground to give the said information pertaining to what is going on in the Ukraine. This is a very dire situation. I'm a believer in God, so I don't claim anything. I don't want to claim anything worse than what's already happened. It's a bad situation. So I'm not going to claim nuclear war here. I'm not claiming Putin doing anything to any other country in the sky, on the ground, because he's already on the ground in a place that he doesn't have any business. He has unjustly traveled to this land, sending his troops in, killing many people. And they have killed people that have no relations to any military bases or entities. That was just a ruse, just talk. I saw content earlier that they're going to be government officials from the Ukraine and Russia meeting to talk, but I don't see the point in talking because he's already invaded the country. What is there to talk about? He made a sound decision to go over there. So what do you all want to talk about now? Now, Zelensky says he's going to meet with these people, let them talk, blah, 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 because he wants to give his people hope that he's doing what is best for them. And he doesn't want them to think that he's just bowing out and not trying to have a peaceful resolution. And that's a noble thing to say, but it's still damn near, I can't think of the word I want to use, null and void, because the man is already pushed people there. Mr. Putin has put the people on the ground to show you I can do what I want because I can. What are the reasons for him invading? I do not know. It doesn't even matter. It never matters. Why would it matter? It's not going to matter. It's just crazy. Now my phone is doing crazy stuff. Good Lord. This is a dire situation abroad. And I'm going to bring you some stats. They may vary in numbers because naturally there will always be variance in numbers of how many people are injured and or deceased in a given story. This is information that I just Googled. The number of known people killed in Ukraine following the Russian invasion is 352 civilians, Ukraine's Ministry of Interior said Sunday. At least 14 of those are children, according to the ministry. Another 1,684 people, including 116 children, have been injured. This was uploaded 17 hours ago. Now, I've seen a number that was higher than that. So I'm not really sure. Because as I said, the numbers can vary. Let me find this weonews.com. I don't know how valid their information is, but I'm going to read it anyway. Know that it may not be the accurate amount. This was uploaded today. Or, no. Let's see. Can be today. This is 9:07 p.m., so it had to be last night. It's a disclaimer. A number of claims and counterclaims are being made on the Ukraine-Russia conflict on the ground and online. While Wyand takes utmost care to accurately report this developing news story, we cannot independently verify the authenticity of all the statements, photos, and videos. More than 5,000 people, including military personnel and civilians, have lost their lives so far as the Russian assault on Ukraine entered the fifth day on Monday. The conflict began on Thursday after Russia's President Vladimir Putin ordered wide-ranging attacks on Ukraine, hitting multiple cities and bases with air raids or shelling and attacking by land and sea. On Sunday, Ukraine's health ministry claimed that at least 352 civilians, including 14 children, have been killed since the Russian invasion, while 1,684 people have been wounded, it said. So, almost 1,700 wounded and 352 civilians, including 14 children, deceased. But when you go to the top, it says more than 5,000 people, including military personnel and civilians, have lost their lives. So perhaps there are more military people deceased than civilians, because naturally it is the troops, Ukrainian troops, who are aiding in the fight against the Russian troops. And yes, there has been video circulating on the news and social media of a long ride of convoys ready to enter into Ukraine territory. Very sick and disturbing news. I'm going to bring you information that I saw earlier that I would like to reveal to you all. Hold on one second. If I can get out my menu. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Sorry about that. Allergies. Woo. It's that season. It's on its way. All right. I want to let you all know that at 8 p.m., President Biden will deliver the State of the Union before a joint session of Congress tonight on and ABC News and other news outlets will be airing that. I have this posted to the community page if you need verification for the information. So if you are not busy tonight at 8 p.m., President Biden will be speaking to the masses. If you're interested in learning anything new about this situation. This is something I wanted to show, play for you all, pertaining to the people on the ground being given artillery to fight in this crazy asinine war. ABC News is the source. Ukraine mounts fierce defense against Russian forces. Good morning, America. It's the source. Thank you for joining me. Sorry about that. Ooh, these commercials. Lord have mercy.
Ukrainians have fled their homes, crossing the border to Poland, Hungary, and Romania. As we come on the air, Ukrainian and Russian officials are meeting to discuss a possible ceasefire. Our team covering all the latest developments from across the globe, senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell starts us off in Kyiv. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, George. That's right. Russia adding yet more forces to its invading army, but also facing hardening resistance across the country. And, I don't think I've seen anything quite like the mood in Ukraine right now. They said that they defend their land, but this is now an entire nation leading into the war efforts. And with a number of civilian casualties rising, it's now clear that Russia's claim that it's only targeting the military is untrue. Day 5 with the Russian invasion, but Ukraine standing strong. And this morning, President Zelensky addressing the nation, claiming thousands of Russian troops have been killed, saying Ukrainians have shown who we are. Russia has shown what it has become. This morning, potential peace talks as a Ukrainian delegation meets with Russian officials on the Belarus-Ukraine border. While Zelensky says it's likely they'll fail, he wants his people to know he'll always try for peace, even if there's little chance. According to the president, so far the fighting's taken the lives of 352 civilians, 16 of them children. The Ukrainian military mounting a fierce defense against more powerful invading Russian forces. The government releasing this drone video claiming they've hit a Russian military unit to the west of Kyiv. And these videos posted to social media show the clashes in Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Government troops seen here battling on the streets with automatic weapons and rocket-propelled grenades. The Ukrainian government releasing these images, claiming to show Russian forces entering the city, then apparently being defeated. Government troops seen picking through the wreckage. But the Russian military continuing to bombard the city. One US defense official praising the Ukrainian resistance, saying they've been quite creative in finding ways to attack columns. Now Vladimir Putin appearing to raise the stakes higher, ordering his strategic nuclear defense forces onto heightened alert, claiming it's in response to so-called aggressive statements from NATO.
This is actually the most convincing sign we've seen yet that the war in Ukraine is not going according to plan. This is not a step that you take when you're winning a major conventional war.
But it may still be early days in this invasion. Satellite photos show a massive Russian military convoy headed in the direction of Kyiv, stretching over 3 miles long. With fears that these troops could enter the city at any moment, many residents now taking up arms. We went to a weapons distribution center in Kyiv. What we're seeing today are civilians taking up arms to try and defend their city of Kyiv. Let's just follow them a second. We're seeing people with anti-tank weapons, Kalashnikovs, are getting them from the police station. And these are men, some of them in their 50s, some just out of their teens, ready to stand and fight and defend. Ukrainian citizens are showing resistance around the country. In Berdyansk, which is occupied by Russian forces, locals came out facing a Russian tank, singing the Ukrainian national anthem. Well, remarkable scenes. President Zelensky, interestingly, now creating this international brigade for people, volunteers who want to come from overseas and fight together with the Ukrainians. And this morning, even releasing prisoners with combat experience who are willing to go to the front lines and fight. But I think after 5 days of Russian attacks and this invasion advancing, there is a real sense and a concern this morning that the worst is still yet to come. George.
Russia has so much firepower. Okay, and thanks. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here.
ABC News is the source. As this commentary speaks of a 3-mile-long convoy lined up, you can see the said convoys lined up for over 3 miles in the said commentary. Civilians have been given artillery to fight in case they decide they want to use the artillery. I think this is so out of control. Because now you're talking about civilians who probably have never used a heavy machine gun now have access to a gun. Oh, this is very dangerous. I've also heard of, I believe what they said, was it, I remember if they said Ukraine 18 to 60 are not allowed to leave the Ukraine as to be perhaps, I guess, quarantined for war. This is very, very sick. Well, now you cannot roam the earth as you as you were before, whether you're a man, a woman, or a child. 14 children killed allegedly. As I've told people, in natural disasters, wars, all the same. Everybody has not been afforded the opportunity to be able to leave. If you don't have money, where are you going to go? If you're homebound, where are you going to go? You're in a nursing home, assisted living, where are you going to go? You're paralyzed, you're sick. It takes money to move around the earth. That's one thing some people don't seem to understand. A lot of people like to say that when there's not a disaster. Just get up and go. You don't like where you're at? Just go. Well, everybody's different. Some people who like living on the edge would just up and go when there isn't a disaster. Frankly, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going anywhere where I'm not going to be able to sleep, eat, take a bath, and I've already got that where I am, whether I don't like where I am or not. This case is dire. They don't have no choice but to get out, unless they want to sit and see if they're going to get their arm, head, feet blown off. But to move requires stamina and money. Nobody's just going to up and leave, don't take all their money out of the bank. I'm not going to leave my land and leave my money in the bank. I want my money. Now I got to gather up my kids, my family. I just saw a video the other day, 15 people in one household. Can you imagine? You got to have something to ride 15 people in. Unless you're going to be on foot trying to get on a train to cross over to the next land. But as the U.S. has said, this was inevitable. It was on its way. Maybe the people of Ukraine didn't believe it. The Ukrainian President Zelensky didn't believe it. That's obvious. He was holding out hope that this man was just shucking and jiving. But my thing is, if a person is talking about doing something, how many times can they keep talking about it? Eventually, they probably will do it. He's done it now. And the reasons behind it doesn't even matter at this point because he's there. He's got troops on the ground in Ukraine. So, as this man was speaking here at the Pentagon, the ifs and the ands and the whats and the who's and it don't even matter. You can ask 1,000 questions about why. What is he getting ready to do? Where is he going now? What are you all doing as far as NATO and this and that? And what do you have in the sky? And like he said, I'm not going to tell you what information we have pertaining to military, surveillance, satellite. Just know we're going to handle our business pertaining to NATO and other countries. Yeah, do you really want to be telling the enemy anything right now? No, you do not. This man is diabolical. And we have to pray that we won't go into a worse situation where this fucker will decide to push a button and blow us all up. But right now, he won't make it. Because right now in America, certain distilleries, distribution centers are pulling Russian vodka off of the shelves. And that's to be expected. People will probably start pulling them off the shelves and distribution centers here in the United States and other countries. Their monies will be depleted, bank accounts, because you have to think about things. Every country does something, produces something. Food, clothes, liquor, furniture. So if you have a lot of distilleries in Russia, now those people are getting ready to pay the price of one man's decision to invade another country. So they depend on that money. You also have to count the people who work at the distillery. See, it's bigger than just somebody pushing a truck across someone else's territory and shooting off a missile. People have to eat. People have to sleep. People have to have somewhere to go to work. So now anything that's going to affect the Russian people as far as businesses, franchises, retail, now whoever owns it, he or she is suffering. The workers, they're going to suffer. The people who live in Russia, they're going to suffer because of Mr. Putin. They're going to now suffer from his devious acts against Ukraine. So it's going to be a ripple effect in so many ways. Those people are going to suffer. And they may not even agree with Putin. I'm not going to sit here and blame all Russians because of what one man decided to do. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, everybody in Russia is the same. Everybody in Russia wanted to invade Ukraine. Why would I believe that? And that's why you don't judge everybody the same. Same thing with all the things that's going on with America, going abroad to fight war, Afghanistan, Iraq. It's not fair to blame every American for the decision of our national government. They did what they did to go abroad to fight for whatever reason. It is what it is. Can't take it back. Same things with China, Korea, wherever. I don't judge those people because of what their leader is doing or what their leader has done. You don't judge people like that. You're talking about one person making a sound decision to make a decision for other people that they did not sign up for, did not sign on to. And I don't judge people according to their government and or their leaders. This is just a sad, sickening way to live, to be running for your life, to go nowhere. Doesn't matter if Poland accepts you, if this place accepts you, you don't want to be there. And you have that right not to want to be there. You want to be at your own home, the comfort of your house, your bed, your job, your car, your friends, your family, your neighborhood. All that scratched now because you've got to go on the run like a thief in the night because of some lunatic. Some bald-headed ass lunatic who's playing with people's lives, playing with national governments because he can. This is very sick. Very, very sick. And it's cruel. Prayers for the Ukraine. Prayers for people who have family in the Ukraine. Prayers for all those who have been able to get out of the Ukraine or are traveling out of the Ukraine. I pray that they make a safe passage to a new place where they can get help, aid. But now this is going to stress other countries financially in trying to help these people get on their feet, get them somewhere to live. See, people aren't really realizing how severe the situation is. Besides invading a land, killing innocent people, you now have those who are alive who have to now fight to sustain life and go somewhere where they don't know people, don't have any friends, any family. That is cruel. And then you have to also pray for those left behind in a war-torn country. Who the hell wants to walk around a place where they're bombing things, shooting missiles off, buildings are falling over, half of the building's missing? Can't come out, can't walk your dog, can't do anything because you're trapped. And I don't think anybody really knows what it's like to be trapped. You don't have any idea. And I don't want to know. I don't want to live through a natural disaster. I don't want to wade through murky water. I don't want to drown in water. I don't want to be in a place that collapsed from a tornado or hurricane. And I sure as hell don't want to be ducking and dodging in a home or apartment with the building caving in because somebody decided to push a button and send a missile off. You see, even in our worst hour here in the United States, no matter what you're going through, you really don't know how bad it can get. And this war between Russia and Ukraine is an example of how bad it can get. That you have no cavalry, you have nothing that you can do or say to save yourself except for to pray to God if you believe in God. You could hope your government will do right by trying to help you, but what can you do when your government is outweighed by adversaries, troops on the ground? You are stuck. And that is a horrific, inhumane place to be in. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $BigAngie, 129 Cash App. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm going to do my research for my next live pertaining to some things that's transpiring here in East Tennessee. I'll get back with you all a little bit later, but stay safe. Prayers to the people of Ukraine, prayers to Zelensky and the government, prayers they can try to reach some type of solution with their adversary, praying that the Russian government will talk to Putin and tell him you need to end this because you're going to end up hurting us in the meanwhile. It's not just about you and what you want. You're hurting us as well. And we didn't sign up for this. And we don't want this war. Thank you, all new subs, old subs, those just dropping in, curious to the content. This is an all-round channel. I talk about various topics. True crime, breaking news. Thank you all so much for following the content. You all have a very safe afternoon. March is tomorrow. God bless all of you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, honey. You all be safe out there. This is Everyday Shenanigans.